You're listening to Real Talk live streaming from Northport, Florida. I have a very, very special guest in the house today, Miss Stacy Aloisio. How are you doing?
Hi, John. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. So give everybody a quick overview of your position and what you're doing here today.
Okay, great. Well, I could talk about emergency management for the whole hour.
Woo-hoo.
I know, but what I do, as the emergency manager, day to day, our job is to make sure that the city is prepared for any disaster we could face. So that could be a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. And we make sure our plans are updated. We train all of our city responders for those emergency plans. We exercise together, and then we also coordinate with our municipal counterparts, our county counterparts, and any other partners that would be involved in any sort of response and recovery to make sure that we all work together really well and are ready to go. And then when that disaster strikes, the city manager gives emergency management the authority over the incident. The city manager is still in charge over me, but then I'm in charge under him over the rest of the cities. And that allows me to be able to make those quick real-time decisions that can be life-saving. So we do a lot here. I'm very grateful for you to have me, and so we can talk about this EOC project that we have coming up.
So the really important thing I want to do here real quick though is educate people on what the EOC is for them in a crisis, because me personally, I've been there, served with you guys twice. I know the true value of what you guys do for our citizens, but in a crisis mode, can you give a quick overview of what the EOC does for the citizens themselves?
Sure. So the Emergency Operations Center, we bring in city employees, and our job is to organize the response. So there's 104 square miles. There's a lot that's going on. Fire is doing something. PD is doing something. Public Works has their own responsibilities as well. So we gather information about what everybody is doing so that we don't duplicate efforts, but then we also order resources that help them do their jobs so that they can support our residents. So if we're doing search and rescue and fire needs strike teams to help backfill so that they can continue to respond to 911 calls while they're out doing search and rescue, that comes through the EOC. If police needs additional assistance to help enforce curfews, for example, or to prevent looting, those requests come through the Emergency Operations Center. Same thing with debris hauling and monitoring. So anything that they see happening out in the field, those resources come from the Emergency Operations Center. And we make sure that that response is organized and efficient. And it's really difficult to do that in a building that loses power, loses water, isn't safe to be in. So we're really looking for a space, to build a space that will allow us to support our first responders so they can support our residents.
And the citizens should get behind this on a financial basis because of?
So the funding is here. We're using surtax and building fund monies. So we've already identified those funds. It's already been budgeted. The only thing that we haven't moved over is a little bit of surtax and the building fund money. We were able to partner with Elena Ray, the Development Services Director. She was looking for space for her building inspectors, and day to day we have space for them to work out of. So it was just a great partnership to be able to work together with her and to be able to support that financially. So appreciative to Director Ray.
And you know, that comes along with the line that we're hurting for buildings, right?
We are. You know, we're still recovering from Hurricane Ian. So far, I don't want to jinx it, but so far we've had a little bit of a break. But this building would provide additional meeting space, additional training space. It would be open up for the community to, if they wanted to reserve free of charge space to run meetings, things like that. They'd be welcome to do that as long as we're not activated for a disaster. We'd be happy to provide that service to our community as well.
And you know, having the extra space for everyday workers is one thing. Being able to adjust that out for an EOC is another. So we're currently doing that at City Hall. and now with the integration of the fire department into City Hall, I know myself, my bedroom when I was there was a closet, and now that's going to be Chief Titus's office. So firsthand knowledge of how that stuff gets coordinated and how it works is that each space gets taken up and used for other purposes. They're having the shove into closet routine at the police department. We're having the shove in the closet routine at City Hall, and we're looking to make some adjustments. And on a financial side, where you're looking at everything through citizen eyes, this is all kind of collectively budgeted out within what we've already had budget, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So
Yes.
all of those are check marks. So the EOC itself, in a crisis scenario, the citizens need to understand that too. With what you guys actually do, the coordination of water supplies and different things like that, the electrical, Florida Power, government assistance, everything along those lines, they all get collectively coordinated between Sarasota County and our EOC, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yes. So if we want a status update from Florida Power and Light on when we can expect power restoration, that filters up through the Emergency Operations Center up to FPL. Just an example.
Yeah, and so all those are really directly connected to the citizens here. And how many people would you say that we have in the EOC at any one given point? I didn't even count, but there's so many people strategically located there from different resource angles. Can you give an overview of how many people we're talking?
Yeah, so we have both shifts staying in the EOC for a hurricane scenario all at the same time. Plus we have the call center employees, our joint information center, and our IT support. So there's about 70 or 80 people in here hunkered down during a storm. So like you said, we take up office space, we're sleeping in people's offices, we're sleeping in chambers. We have to evacuate the third floor for hurricanes because, the roof might have damage. So we really occupy the first and second floor when the storm is going over, and we're taking up every nook and cranny in there.
Yep. And like I said, firsthand, one, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from you, learned a lot from Chief Titus, Jason Bartolone, and anybody who came in and got interviewed those two occasions. But even more so, you guys don't bring family members in. You guys are, like I did, walking away from your family member and going and serving the community, right?
Correct. Yes. So we do have at the Morgan Center, we have a space so that residents are able to, not residents, the city employees are able to have a safe space for their families if they get evacuated. Because when you work for the city, you can't evacuate. You have to stay and serve the residents. So it allows us to, those people who work for the city who need to evacuate, they'll have a place to stay that's safe so that they can then support the city. So we do that, but you can't bring your family into the Emergency Operations Center. Right. So those people who are reporting to the EOC, we have to leave our families behind, our homes behind, and we work very hard 24/7.
Yes. I check mark every one of those things. The sleep is a few minutes here, a few minutes there as you go through. Thank God we have not been hit directly. But I saw on the last storm, as things started to escalate, turn north, you could see the tension, you could feel the tension, and operating, while it was efficient, it wasn't a designated spot. What would it feel like to have a designated spot that you guys could call your own and convert into, I guess, a better flow of information?
Yeah, so there are a lot of problems with not having a designated emergency operations center. With a hurricane, we take for granted that we have time to set up the EOC ahead of time. It takes IT 4 hours, give or take, to set up the EOC, and then time again to take it back down. Last hurricane season, with not much time between Helene and Debbie, take it up, tear it down, just to set it back up again. And then, between Helene and Milton, rather. So when there's something that happens with no notice, we now have to get IT in the building to set everything up, and that's going to take us a lot of time. And even our call center to activate our emergency information hotline, for us to get information from residents and information back out to the residents, IT has to set that up as well. So part of having that designated building that will allow us to be activated instantly, the call center will be ready to go. The emergency operations center, big situation room, will be ready to go. Will really save us a lot of time, help us to stabilize the incident a lot more quickly, a lot more efficiently, and allow us to get communications in from our residents and back out to the residents as quickly as possible, as the information, as disasters, they change as we progress through. So we'll need to constantly be updating the community on what's going on with this disaster, where we're at, how our response is going, if there are any dangers, things like that. So having that designated building will be extremely beneficial.
So the 4 phases: the preparation, the mitigation, the response, and recovery. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. So we're in preparation, mitigation, and recovery. We're always preparing 24/7. We're tracking our corrective actions from lessons learned from last hurricane season, from Hurricane Ian. We're implementing all of those into our plans and training on all of that. Takes pretty much most of our jobs. And then mitigation is also kind of year round. We're part of the local mitigation strategy. We're always looking for ways to mitigate our infrastructure from any sort of disaster. So being part of that mitigation strategy working group allows us to have access to mitigation grant funding to help us do that. Recovery, we're still recovering from Hurricane Ian. There's still tarps on roofs. The United Way and the long-term recovery group is still doing great work out there. They just got World Renew for another few weeks to help continue to rebuild homes. They still have open cases from Hurricane Ian. And now with Debbie, Helene, and Milton last year, they're still recovering from that as well, and will be for the near future. So in recovery. And then response is the disaster happens, and as soon as the incident is stabilized, we're done with all of our life safety and property protective measures. That's when we really ramp up the recovery. So the response is really that immediate life safety after a disaster.
So after a disaster, you guys are not done. You still are coordinating things along the way, right?
Correct. And depending on the intensity of the impacts of the disaster, it could be months or years along the lines that we're still working.
Well, and we've heard through commission and other entities out there that even the monies that we front, it takes a while to come back.
It does. And what this emergency operations center will do, and I should have brought up earlier when you mentioned funding for the building. When we had to evacuate the emergency operations center for several reasons during Hurricane Ian. One of them was we lost water. So imagine trying to do your job in a building where you can't flush a toilet, you can't wash your hands, all of those things. So we had to evacuate it. And when you do that, you lose a lot of time. You lose sight on what's happening out in the field. You lose sight on resources. So when that happens, you're buying, let's say Public Works needs to rent a brush truck, and so does fire rescue. Well, the EOC would notice they're both ordering a brush truck and say, can you guys share? And that would help save money. Or we track search and rescue operations. So police will help fire with search and rescue. we're in charge of saying, okay, fire already searched this. PD, don't search that area because it's already been searched. It's duplicative. Waste time, money, resources, all of that. So when we're down, our efforts get duplicated, our resources get duplicated, resources get lost. So all of those things cost time, money, and safety. So really for us to evacuate a building and take up all day, packing up the EOC, resetting it up, and then we broke that back down and brought it back over to City Hall later. That's just a lot of time and money, and it's not efficient. It's not a way our residents deserve to be served after disaster. My job is to really make sure that we respond, we stabilize the incident, and we have life safety and protection of property and the environment as quickly as possible. And to do that in this building that we're currently in is extremely difficult. It's extremely inefficient, and it doesn't allow me to serve the residents the way that I know our emergency management team and our city emergency responders can.
So let's talk about the effect of not doing it. And I want to do this in a soft way, because we've had no real true EOC currently. And we proof is in the pudding. In the building that we were in for the last two, because it was still compromised and we were still in it performing. And not that it was going to fall apart, but the truth of the matter is an EOC newly built would be built to current code, right?
It would, and more than that, because it's critical infrastructure. So we have to follow even stronger guidelines than like regular building code would be. Plus we would have the backup water supply, so we wouldn't have to evacuate for lack of water. We'll have all the wraparound services to support 24/7 operations that we don't currently have in this building, like a place to sleep. City Hall also houses some very important public-facing resources that they need after disaster. And actually with Senate Bill 180, as soon as possible after disaster, we have to get permitting back open as soon as possible for 40 hours a week. We're sleeping in permitting after a hurricane. We're using their office space. So in order for us to do that, we need a place now for my EOC responders to then move to sleep somewhere else. And you've been in there, you know that space is hard to find. So we really need the tax collector, building and permitting, they all need to be opened up as soon as possible. And when the EOC takes over that whole building, it really isn't feasible. It's really difficult to do.
Well, and I've got a lot of watchers right now. So if any of you watchers out on the live stream have questions, thoughts, or concerns, or kudos to throw out, please do so. I'm sure that Stacy would love the engagement of the community to answer any questions you guys may have. The biggest thing that you can help us do is share the video, get this out there in front of the citizens of Northport so they understand fully what is being asked of them. This isn't a new spending bill. This isn't creating new debt. Yeah, you guys have really worked together to try to figure out collectively within the walls of City Hall how you could accomplish this without really hurting the citizens overall as far as the expenditure, correct?
Yes, and that is really what emergency management is all about. We're the coordinators. So I touch every single department. I work with businesses. I work with nonprofits. I really, they say emergencies are a whole community. Pretty much the definition. It's a whole community to respond and recover from a disaster. So we think about the community through every aspect of our work, and we want to make sure that the way we do things always represents what's best for our residents.
Well, I've got a question. If you can go ahead and read the question. I'll put them up. I've got a couple of them coming at you.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Sean. It says, where will this building be located and when is this expected to open? So the building will be located right next to where Fire Station 81 currently is for now until it's torn down. It'll be rebuilt in the same spot. If you're familiar with where the City Hall campus is, so it'll be right next to there. And we picked that location strategically. It was already owned by the city. So we didn't have to pay money for any new property. And It's located near City Hall, PD headquarters, Fire Station 81, the George Mullen Activity Center, and the Green. And all of those spaces are necessary for disaster response. So it allows us to easily coordinate with all those resources that we need to coordinate with. And then it would be expected to open should the budget amendment get approved and commission approve the GMP in December. They're expecting in April 2027, we'd be able to occupy the space. So one more hurricane season without an emergency operations center, and then we would be able to open it up.
And you've got another question or comment by Robin San Vicente.
So being with emergency management, do you have any information regarding the height of the River Road project and what it will now do to the surrounding developments? So I don't have a ton of information on the height of the River Road project. I do know that it's going for us, from my perspective, for the evacuation route, having it elevated will allow a better flow of traffic because it won't be underwater. You've driven through over River Road, like even from Tropical Storm Hurricane Debbie, a lot of it was underwater. So it will help from that aspect. It won't affect any of the I'm not very good at directions, but the developments closer to the river, I'm not sure how it would affect those, but I don't think you would have any effects on the side that's farthest away from the river, if that makes sense. But from an evacuation route perspective, it's all good for us. I hope that helps.
Yep. And then is there any, and if there's any prior mitigation?
If this is in regards to the River Road project, that is a county project.
County project for sure.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot. I do know that they have a mitigation strategy that they do follow, so that they should be, but like, that's a county project, not a city project. So I don't have a lot of information on that, but I appreciate your question, Robin. Thank you.
And she's got a really quick follow-up on that. Are we collaborating like with any other cities or the county when we're talking about the OC?
And what like
are we having these collective conversations about Northport? I did talk to a couple commissioners this week, and I know for a fact that we are not set up to really get accommodated by the county. They're jam-packed full too. So are we collectively, I know we're collectively in conversations with them, but are they aware that we're attempting to get our own?
They are, and they are very supportive of this. Coming from county, I was in Lee County for Hurricane Ian, and you have very limited resources, and you're in charge of the whole county, and you have to prioritize where those resources are going to go. Some places no one's going to get all of the resources that they need. Some are going to get some of the resources that they need. Some are going to get even less. And knowing the reality of that, the county does their best. And I can't say anything bad about the county emergency management team. They're all wonderful. They do a fabulous job supporting the city. But when you have limited resources, their priority can't be Northport all the time. It's going to be where there's the biggest threat to life and property and the environment. And if that's not Northport, we need to be able to be self-sufficient to serve our residents in the event that we have to wait longer for our resources, because the resources the county has on hand has to go, for example, to the barrier islands where they're doing search and rescue and digging people out of homes because they're filled with sand. They can't come here. We have to wait for those resources to come from somewhere else in the state or somewhere else in the country. So for us to be able to have our own emergency operations center so we can better advocate for ourselves is extremely important. Like I said, the county does a great job, but there's only so many resources that can go around. So it just gives us a better leg up when we're advocating for ourselves to get the resources that we need to serve our residents.
Well, let's just throw the real fact in there is that we actually outpopulate Sarasota County, or outpopulate Sarasota, the city, outpopulate Venice, the city. And we need to prepare ourselves for what could come our way and really has come our way. We've been blessed that we haven't had major disasters here, but we have been hit by some of these hurricanes, and really the flooding side of it. really affected our community big time with
Mhm.
Ian. And that was all managed by you guys too, right?
Well, and even before Ian, I want to read you something that I pulled from our Tropical Storm Elsa after action report, because it really speaks to the the main purpose behind this project. So Elsa, if you recall, we didn't really receive any wind. We just received 10.7 inches of rain in a 3-hour period over the watershed. So it wasn't over Northport, it was over the watershed. So a day or so later, Sarasota County is like, looks good. They deactivated. And all of a sudden we're seeing waters rising, and we're doing full scale EOC activation, search and rescue. And from that came the need to be more self-sufficient. So I want to read this quote. It says, "We need to be better prepared to be self-sufficient, understanding that we will never be able to obtain all of the resources we will ever need to meet all possible situations. We should always strive to be able to address the needs of the community in a manner that best serves them, regardless of the conditions with what we have." And what better way to do that than with our own designated space that allows us to 24/7 around the clock be able to serve the needs of our residents when they need us the most, which is, after a disaster.
So I sat twice through the EOC. I can't imagine what would have happened if we would have had any type of disaster to the building that we were in at the same time that we were dealing with the crisis on the ground. I know that you guys have felt that before and have dealt with that, but can you talk about the emotion that goes in with the building not being sufficient, and yet feeling that compromised building around you and still dealing with staying focused on the emergency side of it for the citizens of Northport?
Yeah, so I just want to make it very clear, the people that are working in the Emergency Operations Center are not day-to-day first responders. There are business managers, they're planners, they are, working for public works. So they don't sign up. They sign up to serve the city, but when they signed up for their job, they didn't sign up to risk their lives. So they do a great job. They're trained very well, and they're very good at what they do in the EOC. But it's when you put them in a situation where their life is at risk potentially because the building isn't built, that's not good. So we actually worked great with the county during Milton. We sat down, we had a conversation of, Milton is currently a Category 5. We won't be able to stay here. What can we do? And the county set up a space for us potentially in Cranberry Elementary should we have needed to evacuate. We never want to be in that situation where we have to stop our preparedness planning to evacuate somewhere else. And now Cranberry Elementary might not always be an available place for us. I know that we partner with Charlotte County so that they can use it for their special medical needs shelter sometimes, because they don't have a lot of sheltering space there and need places to go. So it's not a great spot to be in, especially since I feel a lot of responsibility for the people who are working for me in the Emergency Operations Center. I want everybody to have a safe place to work, and I want to be able to do my job and have my responders do their job to the best of their abilities. And when you're having to evacuate a floor because of a storm or having to evacuate the whole building, that's just not feasible. So there are steps that we do take just in case the worst case scenario does happen and we're afraid the building won't stand. We won't stay in the building, but it's not very efficient or effective to be able to leave and come back.
And Robin's got another one up there for you.
Oh, great. Robin asked, don't know if my mother's question went through. Okay. So it was regarding the new height requirements for new construction for residential and commercial and what it will now do to the existing residential. Question went away before I could finish reading it. What it will now do to the existing residential properties that will now be subject to flooding runoff. So not necessarily emergency management question. I do know that there is mitigation and stormwater management that needs to be approved We have a floodplain manager. I'm happy to get get you his information, and he'd be able to answer that question a lot better than I can. But I do know that that's something that they take into account when they're building, to ensure that there's some stormwater management available to mitigate any sort of flooding that could happen downstream.
And they have to do I do know this. They have to do that because they're really not allowed to run off onto the other properties. They have to maintain. So while all these are great questions, it goes to the specific build out of a lot of these other buildings, and you're right, they're not specific to you. But when the EOC is built, you're not going to run off onto City Hall. It's not designed to do that. And the building codes and the requirements that go with the build, even a single family home, they're not allowed to watershed. That's why we're so appreciative of the fact that we have the hospital coming into one of the lower lying corners at Sumter. That's what's going to help mitigate a lot of that situation on at least one corner. And there's some difficulties that come with that because you're not doing four corners at the same time. But it's all taken into consideration, and we had a good overview of what the effects are from the last flood we had with Ian. So I think that we could pretty much check mark just about every entity out there that really realizes how much water we can actually hold to get hit with a great storm. Because it's fresh. Chuck tells me about 1990. I don't need to go back to 1990 anymore. We just had one recent. So, we've got a fresh database to compare runoff and our concerns. So
we do. And
go ahead.
And they just completed a project where they cleared out a lot of the creek. So we've actually increased capacity. We're not sure how much until we get a big storm. And luckily, we have dodged a few hurricanes this season and haven't seen anything of major impact yet. But we do know that we have additional capacity to add on to that. So all good things.
Well, I don't want to ever have another one. We've endured enough right now for all intents and purposes. But we've got to look at the future with the EOC. I know we're in dire need of buildings and building space. We're in dire need of more space for our police department, and I love the fact that our police department is thriving with what little space they have. We don't want to constrict them either. But this would also add into a better flow across the board if we were to get hit with a hurricane, get us out of a 3-story building, get us into a 1-story building, right? Mm-hmm. And then everything's set up for success in that building, which you could then also open up City Hall post an event and get all the departments back up and functional much quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And all those check marks that go back to permits and getting things through for people who are getting roofs right away. I know that I made a phone call for a customer of mine, and I had Sunny State out there next day to put his roof on, he's like, I can't believe it. Everybody on the street is like, how did you make that happen? Got lucky. And that's all I can say. But when there's a hurricane situation like that, everybody gets ramped up, and that's when everybody is concerned. Do we have the resources? It's now that we should be talking about the preparation for what's to come, because we know it's coming. We just don't know when it's coming.
And we respond to more than hurricanes, right? We're entering dry season, very dry. We didn't get a lot of rain.
Nope.
We haven't had a really major burn since Hurricane Ian, and Milton last year knocked down a bunch of debris. So we're prime for wildfire season coming up. So wildfires, we don't get notice. We would still need to activate to support our firefighters. So getting them the resources that they need. The county is only statutorily obligated to open shelters for a hurricane. So if we're evacuating and we need to open up a shelter, that's not on the county, that's on the city of Northport to be able to support our residents by opening up a shelter somewhere if your home is impacted and you need to evacuate. So, and then, like I said earlier, for a no notice event, like a wildfire, we need to ramp things up right away. It's going to take a while for IT to get our room set up, for us to get our emergency information hotline set up, to get that information to and from the residents. So, time is really important in emergencies and in emergency management. And so we really are looking forward to hopefully having a space where I don't have to lose sleep at night thinking, oh my gosh, what if some no notice thing happens and we're already starting behind the ball? Because I do lose sleep at night about that stuff. I care about my residents, and I care about doing my job to the best of my ability to serve our residents in the way that they deserve to be served. I mean, it's very difficult to do that and without the necessary resources.
So we're going to slide into this because I'm picking up on the I theme from you. Being in the management position that you are, I had to learn this going in. So you collectively have a group of people in there who, outside of the EOC, may carry different weight in their jobs than you. Can you educate the citizens on exactly what I'm describing to you? Because I know you can run with this and have a good time with it.
Oh, I can. So, as the emergency manager, I manage the Emergency Operations Center. We follow the incident command structure. If you guys listening ever want to learn more about that, you can. But we have an operations section chief that sits in the Emergency Operations Center and oversees all of the operations citywide. And we help them set priorities and objectives, and they determine what tactics they're going to do to achieve those objectives. So basically, I tell them, we're going to work on search and rescue today to protect lives. So I'm like, okay, we need boats, we need engines, we need people. And the people who staff that position in my Emergency Operations Center is actually Fire Chief Titus and Deputy Fire Chief Hurley. So very important all the time. They leave fire admin and they work in the Emergency Operations Center. We have our members of finance are in there working as finance section. Our grant specialists are also part of the finance section, and they are working on reimbursement. So any opportunity we have to get money back from FEMA after a disaster, they're working on that. So they're working in the Emergency Operations Center with us as well. We have representatives from police, public works, utilities, parks and rec. And Parks and Rec plays a huge part because they have a lot of resources of space. After disaster is a much needed resource, space to put people, land to put resources. So they're a great partner to have that people may overlook is our parks department. And they're a solid team in there, and they help us a lot. And then, of course, development services, we have a representative in there, but also we help coordinate our building inspections and our residential damage assessments. So when you see our team going out, looking at homes, checking for damage, that will help us get our FEMA declarations. Those are building inspectors from our staff. And that information feeds back to us so that we can feed that information up to the county and to FEMA to help us get those declarations from FEMA so we can get some FEMA funds sent down to us to help.
Fantastic.
So a lot of coordination.
Well, and there's one aspect that you didn't throw in that I'm going to throw in, which is the nonprofit organizations that are out there that they do coordinate through you. And they add just another layer to the citizens in our community, right?
They do. We have a lot of fabulous nonprofits and faith-based partners out there. Yep. San Pedro, they let us use their facility as a point of distribution. So if after Helene or after Milton, you went through a drive-through and you got food and water, that was because San Pedro, free of charge, let us use their facility. During, we don't think of cold weather as an emergency, but when it gets cold outside it is an emergency for people who don't have a place to warm up. And the 100 Church, without ever asking for anything, open up their doors to allow people to stay warm overnight. United Way leads the community organizations active in disasters for Sarasota County, and they do a lot for our residents after a disaster. They help coordinate tarping and food distributions and case management, all sorts of recovery resources for our residents. And I'm part of that long-term recovery group, so I can help advocate for our residents to get those resources that they have. There are so many partners that I would love to have space for in our Emergency Operations Center so we could coordinate better and more quickly.
Right.
But unfortunately, that conference room, there's not enough space for all of us. So if we do get this Emergency Operations Center, I'm very excited to be able to bring in, United Way, some of our business partners as well, some of our private sector partners, our faith-based organization partners. One of the things that I did when I was in Lee County was I had a faith-based organization network, and we had representatives from faith-based organizations in the Emergency Operations Center, and they were keeping track of what other faith-based organizations were doing. So if somebody was offering feeding, they would let us know. That way we could push out the message, hey, the 100 Church is offering feeding from this time to this time. So anybody who's looking for food could go there. And it was just a great way for us to help push information out about what resources are available. So it's something that I would be very much looking forward to doing.
And most importantly, right now, can you give your contact information out so that if people have a direct question to you, they can ask the question either by email or phone?
Oh, sure. Yes. So I don't know if there's a way you could put up, because my name's complicated.
I have it scrolling across the bottom. So
okay.
You actually,
Fabulous.
I have it scrolling across the bottom. Your email is there. It's your first initial and your last name. So
yes.
I've got that scrolling, but if you can go ahead and just spell it out, that'll be fine too.
Yeah, so it's SALOISIO at northportfl.gov. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. If it's not necessarily emergency management, like the flood question, something that has to do with floodplain management, I'm happy to connect you with the person who would have that information as well. So any questions, feel free to share.
How about some of these groups that get together and have 15, 20 people at the same time and they want a speaker to come out and educate them? Will you do something like that?
Oh, I do that. Thank you for the plug. We do preparedness seminars for your communities. You can go to northportfl.gov/request speaker. One of the things that I would be looking forward to with this Emergency Operations Center would be to open up the Emergency Operations Center to bring people in to do these seminars. A lot of people in the city don't have an HOA or a space that would fit enough people for us to come to you. So this would just allow us another opportunity to reach more of our members and let everybody see the Emergency Operations Center and how it works.
And it's going to be important for people to get educated on this, but two, when it does happen, to actually go visit. I know that the police department is begging people to come by and look at how they're stacked on top of each other now. They truly are inviting the citizens in to see why there is a need. While there could be the claim made, is this a want or a need? I want you to address that so that the clarification comes from the management side of what you're doing versus just conversations.
Yes. So with everything that I've discussed, I think I made it pretty clear this is a need for us to be able to serve our residents after a disaster effectively and efficiently in the way that they deserve to be served. So like I said, time can cause life safety issues. We're wasting time evacuating a facility, or because we don't have power, we lose communications. For me, that's completely unacceptable. For me to be able to do my job to the best of my abilities and to serve the residents that they deserve to be served. So it's definitely a need. We know what happens when like my communications team is unable to get communications out because we don't have cell service or we don't have power. That can be another big issue. We want to make sure that we're able to get our residents and businesses the information that they need about the resources and the help that's available. We want to make sure that we're efficient in where we deploy our resources to the most vulnerable areas in the city. We want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts, that fire's not doing something police already did, and vice versa. All of that stuff can be mitigated through this Emergency Operations Center, and it is very necessary.
So can you talk a little bit about the slide that has the budget summary?
Sure. So we had an initial budget of 11.2 million with cost escalation that happened throughout. This project went through several iterations. The price went up a little. So
no surprise there, by the way.
No surprise there. So we were able to then, from the 11.2 million, fire rescue had some grant funding come in that we were able to, it was reimbursed money that they were able to then allocate to this project, which helped out. That was about $900,000. And then we were able to use the building fund and a little bit of additional surtax for this. We have already encumbered $566,674 for design, engineering, and permitting, plus PD actually paid for about $200,000 additionally because this project was originally part of the police headquarters project. For a lot of reasons, we were pulled out a lot. So a lot of that was time. This is a needed resource that needs to be built as soon as possible. So this is such a smaller project that we thought we have the land next to Station 81. We have the funding for it. Let's just get this done as cheaply as possible instead of waiting with cost escalations. So that was one of the main reasons we pulled it out of the police headquarters project. So we have that. And so now we were able to come up with all the money except for $900,000 for FF&E, which is the fixtures, furniture, and equipment. Which we are going to ask for governor appropriations for that. So we have enough money to build the structure, just not enough money for, the furniture. But
and chairs.
We're going to reuse what we can reuse, and we'll make it work. But also we are seeking governor appropriations for that last little bit of money. But we don't need that money to break ground, which is what we really want to do, is get the project going. If we wait till after December, the GMP has to go back out for bid and the prices will increase. So now is the best time to act and to do it as cheap as possible.
So being a city that is on the verge of 100,000, if we haven't already hit it, I think we have. But if we haven't, we're on our march to 200,000, and that's not going to slow down either at all. As the city continues to develop. And I know that everybody out there who is cringing right now that we're growing and we're not going to slow down, and we're not. I don't care what anybody says, we're not going to slow down. There has to be some overview of how we look at some of these things as citizens. We have the prime example of why we shouldn't delay in Price Boulevard. And I highlight that one, it should have been done decades ago. In fact, Robin brought up last Monday, why can't we get the infrastructure right first? Well, here we are talking about infrastructure. It's not roads, but it is definitely infrastructure that is needed for the future. And if we ramp up to the next 50,000 people, like we did the last 50,000 people, we're going to be there in 5 years. So it's not going to take us long to top out, have more people here, and not that we're going to put more people in harm's way, but if they're coming here and we're having a hurricane and we have impact from those, that's going to really be an impact on your job. And I know you keep saying you are the manager. That's why it's the I thing. That's why there's some responsibility that comes with it. Your overview on adding 20, 30,000 people to the population and not having this building, is that just a really weird way of thinking right now?
No, I think that it's very accurate. So the more residents we have, the more firefighters we have, the more police officers we have, the more roads we have to get debris off of. It requires us to track more operations, to order more resources. It just does it expands what we need to do in emergency management. This emergency operations center was very strategically designed to be able to support the growth of the city for 50 years. It's not shelf space. We're using all the space now, but for our sleeping space, we're able to grow that, so it'll accommodate as more bodies need to come in. We'll be able to sleep more people. So we are always planning for the future in emergency management.
I am thankful that you guys are there. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to be part of the OC twice last year. I am overjoyed that we have not reconvened this year because of lack of participation from Mother Nature. But the beautiful thing is your job hasn't stopped. You're still moving forward. You're still trying to figure out what's the best advantageous way for the EOC and emergency management to help the citizens of Northport when there is any type of crisis that we have to address. And I think having these conversations are beyond valuable. They really need to be held more and more frequently, and I hopefully will do that more too as this continues. But how has your reception been so far on addressing this, not just with leadership, but also citizens that you've talked
to? So all very positive, and I understand concerns with uncertainties with property taxes, and is growth stalling out in the city, and I'm very sympathetic towards that. The main residents that I interact with are our community emergency response teams in the city, and they have also been extremely supportive of this project, because they understand that they can use it for their trainings, which is a big plus, but they also understand too what the building is going to be used for and how it will serve every single resident, business, partner of the city.
And I look forward to seeing the building. I know we need it. I know it's not required by any stretch of the imagination, but it should be by every citizen, because if we're in the city hall and we get a direct hit of any shape or form, that building is not really designed to withstand it. And having our essential people in an emergency situation safe and sound and ready to perform at 100% for us, the citizens of Northport, and in a timely manner, we have got to address this situation. Just like we have to address the transfer station for Public Works. They have proven their need and their efficiencies, and we need to say yes to that. We made a mistake as citizens. We need to own up to that. But this EOC is definitely a need, not a want, and we need to address these things. And I'm appreciative that you came on.
No, I appreciate you having me here. This has been a great conversation, and I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to be on your show.
Anytime, like I told you before, I look forward to it, and I think the more citizens that get involved and link in with the communication and share this out with the voting base, I think it's really important for the voters, even though it's not going to come down to a vote probably, as far as the voters are concerned, but to understand what's happening within the government and understand that there are conversations being had and there's upfront information and why there's a need for this. Everything you're addressing that across the board, aren't you?
Yes. And before we run out of time, I just want to remind everybody that while we have not yet been hit by a hurricane this season, there's still some catastrophic storms out there.
There are.
We just happen to not be in the way of them, but Erin was a monster storm. Melissa's looking like it's going to be a major storm. So it's not that there's no hurricanes. They're still out there. They're still very strong. Hurricane season doesn't end until December 1st. So just everybody continue to be prepared, keep watching the weather, and listen to your local emergency manager and communications team.
Yeah. And that's a big deal. And know that they're here for us. I know firsthand, like I said, they are looking at efficiencies across the board. The building is one side of it, but when it comes to coordinating all this stuff and they go into overdrive for us, we need to provide them the space to work so that we get the resources that we need when and if we do get hit. So I appreciate you guys so much. You'll never know. Once I got in there and I saw firsthand, it completely flipped my whole perception around about an EOC and why it's in dire need at this point.
Yes, yeah, it is. So
thank you. Go ahead.
Yep, I was just gonna say I appreciate you, and I'm thankful for this opportunity, and I'm glad that you haven't had to spend another night in City Hall yet this season.
Yes, me too. But I do look forward to it because you guys do a great job. But I also look forward to not having it because the stress comes off of everyone in that building when there isn't an EOC change out. So that's a good thing. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Citizens of Northport, participate, get educated, ask questions, find out why it's needed, and find out why you should support it. And then go out and brag about it to the other citizens up and down your street. It is key that we all start talking to each other about these things because I promise you, when you need it, they're going to be there for you, and you're going to wish you had the contact and the structure of what happens because it'll make handling a hurricane or an emergency event much better. The more you can educate yourself on what's going on. Hurricane preparedness. You guys do that whole thing at the beginning of the hurricane season. That's a key to citizens getting locked in to what is out there and all those things. So you guys are really in tune with trying to keep us educated as citizens. So thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
You guys have a blessed day. We'll talk to you soon.
You too.
See you on Monday. Bye-bye.